Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We'll try that one more time. This is like Sunday school. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Well, it is good to be with you and to be with you, Ethan, on this beautiful day. It was quite warm out today, but it doesn't match the warmth that we can find within the walls of this sanctuary, as we are grateful for the ability to gather together, to be able to celebrate as family, as community, as friends, as Ethan becomes a bar mitzvah. And Ethan, you truly are a gentleman, and it is a joy to celebrate in these moments with you and your dear family. We are going to begin our service. We're going to begin our service with the singing of Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu can be found in your Siddur on page, and for those of you who might not know, the Siddur is the blue book that might be in front of you. We can find Ma Tovu on page 74. That's page 74.
Ma Tovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma Tovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani berov chastecha avo veitecha eshtachave el heichal kodshecha be'iratecha. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha u'mekom mishkan kevodecha. Va'ani eshtachave ve'echra'a evrecha lifnei Adonai osi. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim berov chastecha aneni be'emet ishecha. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Moments ago, an ancient and beautiful tradition took place where Ethan had the talit of tradition, this beautiful prayer shawl that he's wearing, placed on his shoulders by his parents for the very first time. And it's meaningful that Ethan is actually wearing Dan's talis that Dan wore as he became bar mitzvah. And it's a reminder of the values that have been so lovingly placed from generation to generation on the shoulders of each and every one, carried on the shoulders of your ancestors, Ethan, up to this very moment where they've been placed on yours. And in our Siddur, on page 88, there's a text that reminds us that when we fulfill certain adult obligations and responsibilities, there's not only a reward that it brings sustenance and goodness to others, but there is an intrinsic goodness to them that is in itself rewarding. It's a joy now to call Ethan forward as he's going to lead us in this reading on page 88.
These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for their wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
Because it leads to them all. We are now going to turn in our Siddur to page 220. That's page 220, where we find Ashrei, the prayer Ashrei. And we are going to read this prayer responsively.
Yeah. Happy are those who dwell in your house, they forever praise you. Happy the people who have it so, happy the people whose God is Adonai. David's song of praise. I will extol you, my God and sovereign, and bless your name forever and ever.
Every day will I bless you and praise your name forever and ever.
Great is Adonai and much acclaimed. God's greatness cannot be fathomed.
One generation shall laud your works to another and declare your mighty acts.
The glorious majesty of your splendor and the wondrous acts will I recite.
They shall talk of the might of your awesome deeds, and I will recount your greatness.
They shall celebrate your abundant goodness and sing joyously of your beneficence.
Adonai is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in kindness.
Adonai is good to all, and God's mercy is upon all God's works.
All your works shall praise you, Adonai, and your faithful ones shall bless you.
They shall talk of the majesty of your sovereignty and speak of your might.
To make God's mighty acts known among mortals and the majestic glory of your sovereignty.
Your sovereignty is eternal, your dominion is for all generations.
Adonai supports all who stumble and makes all who are bent stand straight.
The eyes of all look to you, especially expectantly, and you give them their food when it's due.
You give it open-handedly, feeding every creature to its heart's content.
Adonai is beneficent in all ways and faithful in all works.
Adonai is near to all who call upon God with sincerity.
Adonai fulfills their wishes of those who fear God. Adonai hears their cries and delivers them.
Adonai watches over all who love God, but all the wicked God will destroy.
My mouth shall utter the praise of Adonai, and all creatures shall bless God's name, holy name forever and ever.
We will bless you, God, now and always. Hallelujah. We turn now to page 224 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו Amen.
We read now on page 225.
There are times when the love of God burns so powerfully within your heart that the words of prayer seem to rush forth quickly and without deliberation. At such times it is not you yourself who speaks, rather it is through you the words are spoken.
We now rise together as a community as we turn to the words of the tefillah.
Adonai sifai taitita yufi agida tilate ha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rikav, Elohei Rahel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagidol, Hagibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, v'Chonei Ha'akol, v'Zozir Hastei Avot v'Mimo, Umi Vigula Livnei V'Nehem, Laman Shamo Biava, Mela Ozir Umashia Umagain, Baruch atah Adonai, Magain Avraham, Barat Sarah, Atagi Bor Lilam Adonai, Mehaye Hakol Rav Shia, Mehalkel Hayim Bekesed, Mehaye Hakol Berahamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Bore Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishene Afar, Miha Mocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melet Memi Umakaye, Umatmia Ushua, V'ne'eman Atal Hayot Hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mehaye Hakol.
We now read responsively on page 231.
Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use the strength for good and not evil.
You are the source of life and blessing. Help us to choose life for ourselves and our children.
You are the support of the fallen. Help us to lift the fallen.
You are the author of freedom. Help us to free the captive.
You are our hope in death as in life. Help us to keep faith in those who sleep in the dust.
Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use our strength for good.
For blessing and not for curse, for life and not death, for abundance and not want.
Baruch
atah Adonai, Mehaye Hakol.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
'Cause
You may be seated. We continue now in our Siddur on page 235. Our ancestors brought you spices and foods to gain your favor, O God. Most precious in our day is the offering of time. Accept this gift we have set aside, the sanctity of this full day. Oh, to revel in your presence, to celebrate the beauty of your handiwork, to rejoice in the gift of life. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. We continue now on page 236 with Ritzeh.
Ritzeh, Ritzeh, Adonai Eloheinu, Be'amecha Yisrael, Utefilatam be'ahava tekabel, Utehi l'ratzon, Tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, El karov lechol koral, Pnei el avadecha v'choneinu, Shefol ruchacha aleinu, V'techezena eineinu, B'shuvecha leTzion, Berachamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamachazir Shechinato LeTzion.
On page 239, we find an interpretive reading based on the Hoda'ah, which is a prayer of thanksgiving. And on an evening such as this, we might feel grateful for many gifts that come our way. On an evening like this, we might feel grateful for the gift of the warmth outside and the changing of the seasons, which will inevitably come. We might be feeling thankful for the gift that we can gather together as community, as friends and family and community together. And we might feel grateful for the gift of a young man who's taking his place as an adult within the Jewish community. And if you have reason to feel grateful this evening, I invite you to read with me on page 239. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. Adonai, our God, how majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ucha na'eh lehodot. We continue now with the prayer for peace on page 240.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'v'chol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, tasim le'olam, tasim le'olam, tasim le'olam.
With these words of peace still echoing in our hearts and minds, we take this time now for the prayers of our own hearts.
Ose shalom bimromam, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are now going to turn in our Siddur to page 244. That's page 244, where we find Seder Kriyat Torah, our Torah service. And Ethan knows that the center point, the high point of every Shabbat service is when we take the Torah from the Ark and carry it around to the congregation as he is about to do. It's a sign that the Torah and all of its values and ideals, it is for all of us, not just something that is simply kept up here for the officiants, but the Torah is for all of us. And it's meaningful that he will be carrying into the congregation one of two Holocaust scrolls that we have here at Congregation Shalom. And this one is over 125 years old and comes from Poland. It's a beautifully written Torah scroll. And whoever the scribe was truly at the height of their craft. But there's a powerful story behind the Torah that we teach each and every week, in which we have a young bar or bat mitzvah read from this scroll. As all Torah scrolls and the lessons that reside within it, this Torah scroll is much loved by the community that would read from it and study from it and absorb its wisdom. And there was one man that was part of this group that particularly loved this Torah scroll. And so, when the Germans amassed upon the Polish border, this man had a sense of what might happen to his community and to the Polish Jewish community. And so he hid this Torah scroll away. And sure enough, when the Nazis entered into Poland, crossing the border and initiating the Second World War, they came to his town and they took the Jews there, like they did in all of the towns across Poland and the cities in Poland, to concentration camps and death camps. This man was taken to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where life expectancy was a matter of days. But this man was able to survive there throughout the remainder of the hostilities, right up until the camp was liberated. And after the camp was liberated, this man returned to where he had hidden the Torah scroll away. And he took that Torah scroll to its small surviving remnant in what had once been such a vibrant Jewish center in Warsaw. And in time, this center in Warsaw, where Jews were meeting, began to be diminished as people moved to brighter shores, as they moved to places like the United States and Canada and Israel and Western Europe. And so it became so small that they decided to send the Torah scroll to the United States, which is when Congregation Shalom learned about it and brought it here to Milwaukee. And the purpose of it being sent to the United States is that a Torah is meant to be used, especially by young people, so that they can grow with a sense of spirituality and enable the spark of hope and liberty and freedom for all humanity to be kindled and continued. And that means that when Ethan carries and reads the Torah amidst our community, it represents not only the hard work that he's done and how he's been able to learn from the Torah, but it represents how every young person, no matter their religion, their ethnicity, or nationality, can be a source of light unto the world, no matter how much darkness we might see in it. So we are going to be passing this Torah scroll from generation to generation in Ethan's family, and it's a joy now to call upon his dear grandfather, to call upon Joel Lee, to come up to the bima, and dear parents, Dan and Angela, and Ethan's brother Everett, to stand beside Ethan. It's also a joy to call upon the Mitz O'Toole family, to call upon Chris, Stacy, and Will and Bryce to come forward as they have the honor of opening up our Ark doors. Once again, we are turning to page 244. That's page 244. And we rise together now as a community.
En kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'en kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו.
Zota Torah, Ethan, as you well know, this is the Torah, and found within it are all the values that have been held dear by your family for generations. The values of being upright and strong, being warm and compassionate. It is a joy to pass this Torah from the generation of your grandparents to the generation of your parents. And now, Ethan, it is being placed on your shoulder, where it should remain with good health and much happiness. We are going to turn now and face the congregation as we recite the watchword of our faith, the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Lecha Adonai HaGedula, VeHaGevura, VeHaTiferet, VeHaNetzach, VeHaChod. Ki Chol Bashamayim Uvaretz, Ki Chol Bashamayim Uvaretz, Lecha Adonai HaMamlacha, VeHamitnaseh Lechol Lerosh. Lo Yisagoy El Goy Cherev, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. ידה די 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 די, ידה די 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 די, ידה די 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 די, ידה די 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 די. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום 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 עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום 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 עליכם. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה.
You may be seated. There are many moments during our service where we ask for you to rise or to be seated or to bow, but this is a moment in which we're asking you to reach. And you can grab a chumash that might be in front of you, that it's this book right here, so that you can follow along in our Torah reading. And for those of you who wish to follow along, you can follow along on page 355. That's page 355. We're reading from this week's Torah portion, Ki Tisa, that comes from the book of Exodus. And we'll be reading from Exodus chapter 31, beginning on verse 12. So that's Exodus chapter 31, verse 12. And it's a joy now to call upon our first Aliyah to Torah, to call upon Dina Baker and Missy Nakbar and Roberta Young to come forward, dear cousins. Ya'amdu Dina bat Michael v'Chana, v'Michal ba Michael v'Chana, v'Rachel ba Michael v'Chana.
Let me get out of your way. Okay. Whenever you're ready. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, ve'ata daber el bnei Yisrael lemor, ach et shabbatotai tishmoru, ki ot hi beini uvenechem ledorotechem leda'at, ki ani Adonai mekadishchem. V'shamartem et hashabat, ki kodesh hi lachem. Mechalaleha mot yumat, ki chol ha'aseh ba melacha, v'nichreta hanefesh hahi mikerev ameha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Beautiful Aliyah. You can come stand on my left side. It's a joy now to call forward dear grandmother and aunt and cousins, to call forward Susan Lee and Jennifer Deutsch and Holly Deutsch and Greer Deutsch. Ta'amdu Shoshana bat Chaim v'Chaim v'Rivka bat Yosef v'Shoshana v'Chaya bat Yankov v'Rivka v'Sholomit bat Yankov
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Mvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Sheshat yamim ya'aseh melacha uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat Shabbaton Kodesh Ladonai. Kol ha'oseh melacha bayom hashabat mot yumat v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat l'dorotam berit olam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Yesher Koach and Mazel Tov to you. It is now a joy to call upon dear cousin and dear grandfather, to call upon Noah Deutsch and Joel Lee. Ya'amdu Chaim ben Yankov v'Rivka v'Yosef ben Daniel v'Chaim.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Mvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash. Vayitein al Moshe kechalato ledaber oto behar Sinai. Shnei luchot ha'edut, luchot even ketuvim be'etzba Elohim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Yesher Koach. Now it's a joy to call upon Daniel and Angela and Everett Lee to step forward for their aliyah. Ya'amdu Daniel Adam ben Yosef v'Shoshana ve'ahava bat Abraham v'Sara ve'etan Natan ben Daniel Adam ve'ahava.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Mvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayar ha'am ki v'sheish Moshe ledorot min hahar vayakahel ha'am al Aharon. Vayomru elav kum asalanu Elohim asher yelchu lifnenu ki ze Moshe ha'ish asher he'elanu me'eretz Mitzrayim. Lo yadanu ma haya lo vayomer alehem Aharon parku nizmei hazahav. Asher ba'oznei neshechem b'neichem uvenotechem v'ha'aviu elai v'yitparku chol ha'am et nizmei hazahav asher ba'ozneihem v'yavo'u el Aharon.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Yesher Koach. And now we're going to call forward the man of the hour, as we have the joy of calling forward Ethan, as he is going to read from the Torah, and he is going to have his aliyah, which makes him a bar mitzvah. here. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Ya'amod bar mitzvah, Ya'amod Eyal Moshe ben Daniel Adam ve'ahava. It is with great joy and great fanfare that we call forward Ethan Lee as he becomes a bar mitzvah.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayikach mi Adam Vayatzar Oto Beheret Vaya'asehu Egel Maseha Vayomeru Ele Elohecha Yisrael Asher He'eluha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Vayar Aharon Vayiven Mizbeah Lifanav Vayikrach Aharon Vayomar Hag Ladonai Mahar Vayashkimu Mimohorat Vaya'olo Olot Vayashkishu Shalamim Vayeshev ha'am lehehol v'shato vayakimu litzaheg. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet vayechei ha'olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. All right, Ethan, turn to your left. Take a few steps forward. And give your mom and dad and your brother a big hug. They deserve it, and you deserve it too. It's nice to see a group hug. That is wonderful. It's beautiful. One of the interesting things about your Torah portion is that it's talking a little bit about the contrast that exists. It talks, and both it mentions Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, and it mentions Yisrael, right? And those are two polar opposites. You know, Mitzrayim actually means narrow places. It's a place of narrowness. When we think about the history that's there, slavery, it represents the narrow choices that our people had. But this march to Israel that our ancestors are on, it represents this idea of vastness and openness, like the potential of the world is right in front of you. Now, when your parents take a look at you and your brother standing up here at Torah, and this moment for them is a moment in which through you and through your brother too, that they see a beautiful expanse, this expanse of the future, right? And that's one thing that all parents have in common is that our lives, in a sense, when we look back at our lives, it almost feels somewhat narrow until we have children and they bring out this extraordinary newness in our world. And standing here at this moment with you as a family and to see how tightly bound together you are, that group hug, I think reveals it all, right? Because through you and through your brother, they can see promise, and they can see hope, and they can see goodness. And may it always be so. You've done an extraordinary thing in uplifting the Torah here today, Ethan, and now it is a joy to call upon others who are going to uplift the Torah. Literally, it's a joy to call upon Josh Gimbel and Elijah and Julia Gimbel as well to lift and bind our Torah. We are going to rise now as our Torah is lifted and bound as a community. Got this. You're so strong.
Ra asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe. La 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 la
You may be seated. And now Ethan is going to read the English translation of his Torah portion.
When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered against Aaron and said to him, "Come, make us a god who shall go before us. For that fellow Moses, the leader who brought us from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has happened to him." Aaron said to them, "You men, take off the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." And all the people took off the gold rings that were on their ears and brought them to Aaron. This he took from them and cast into a mold and made into a molten calf. They exclaimed, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron announced, "Tomorrow shall be a festival of the Eternal." Early the next day, the people offered up burnt offerings and brought down sacrifices of well-being. They sat down to eat and drink and rose to dance.
We are now going to turn to a second biblical reading that we do on Shabbat, known as the Haftorah. And the Haftorah comes from a section of our Bible known as the Prophets. And the prophets were not merely foretellers predicting some future, but they were forthtellers. With their words and with their actions, they wanted society to be more just, more merciful, more kind. And so it is a joy now that Ethan is going to be reading his Haftorah. And his Haftorah comes from the 1 Kings, chapter 18, verse 1, for those of you who are following along in the Chumash, page 369. 369.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar bin v'im tovim v'ratzah v'divrehem hanamarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher batorah unvivye ha'emet v'sedek.
Amen.
Vayahi yamim rabim udavar Adonai haya el Eliyahu bashana hashleshit lemor lek hara'e el akav ve'etna matar el pnei adomal. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, rock of all creation, righteous one of all generations, the faithful God whose word is deed, whose every commandment is just and true. For the Torah, for the privilege of worship, for the prophets, and for the Shabbat that you, Adonai, our God, has given us, for holiness and rest, for honor and glory, we thank and bless you. May your name be blessed forever by every living being. Praise to you, Adonai, for the Sabbath and its holiness.
Amen.
Take a deep breath, Ethan. You've done beautifully. You can give the cantor a high five, too, if you'd like.
Yes.
I think both of you have earned it. But it is wonderful to hear these words chanted so beautifully by you. And it is really a wonderful thing to see young people come to Torah and to be able to read and chant so beautifully and to share words of wisdom, which you are going to do in just a moment. And so we turn now to returning the Sefer Torah to the Ark, which can be found on page 256. That's page 256. It's a joy to call upon Will and Bryce O'Toole, who have the honor of opening up our Ark curtains. Once again, we rise at this time. Behold, a good doctrine has been given unto you, my Torah, forsake it not, for it is a tree of life to those who cling to it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace.
Imehi lama chazikim ba v'tomechea meushar derachea darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Nivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
You may be seated, and now Ethan is going to share the words that he's prepared on the occasion of his becoming a bar mitzvah.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you everyone for joining me and my family as I become a bar mitzvah today. My Torah portion is Ki Tisa. It's from the book of Exodus, which tells the story of how the Israelites, led by Moses and with God's help, were able to escape slavery in Egypt. Everyone knows the legendary story, Moses versus Pharaoh, the 10 plagues, and the parting of seas. It all sounds like a great action movie. My Torah portion describes what happens after the Israelites have arrived safely in Sinai and seem to be doing well. Moses goes up the mountain several times to receive God's instructions on how they are supposed to worship and live by God's commandments. During one of these trips up the mountains to meet with God, Moses is gone a long time, 40 days. My Torah portion focuses on what is happening with the Israelites down in the desert. Moses seems to be gone a very long time, as the people are becoming worried that he had died or left them. They are leaderless and scared. In those times of worship, one God was new. The Israelites had observed the Egyptians represent their many gods with statues. So they asked their temporary leader Aaron to make a statue for them to worship. Aaron then takes gold earrings from the people and melts them down to make an idol, a golden calf, that Aaron told them represented God. The people offered sacrifices and did other rituals to worship this golden calf. What I find puzzling is that after being led by Moses to Sinai and seeing God's miracles, like the parting of the sea, why did the people lose faith in Moses and God so quickly? Why did they demand that Aaron build them a golden calf like the Egyptians did? I think the people were panicking. They were awed by God's power, and they became freaked out with Moses because he was their spokesperson to communicate with God. So they figured they had to do something to keep God happy. In the midst of their panic, the people pushed Aaron to create an idol to worship, like the Egyptians did with their gods, believing that God would appreciate it and providing them with guidance. But they knew better. They should have not have done this, even though Moses was gone and they were scared. The story of the golden calf is not just a story about what happened centuries ago. The tale teaches us that we need to adhere to our benefits even in the face of adversity, uncertainty, or doubt. We can't just adopt what everyone else is doing when things get tough. Just because we might not bow down to golden statues does not mean the modern day idols can't distract us from our core values. I think for adults, a golden calf is often the pursuit of money, career, success, and the expense of family and happiness. Another modern day golden calf I see is the pursuit of winning a trophy at all costs. A golden calf has become winning a golden trophy. I spend a lot of my free time playing sports. It is fun to focus, exercise, train hard, learn strategy, and improve. But I think the best part of sports is that it tests you. On the one hand, you need to be competitive, be the best player you can be, and help your team win. But at the same time, you need to maintain your composure and be a good teammate, sportsman. And in the heat of competition, you still need to make sure you remain who you are. I will tell you about 2 quick stories that exemplify what I'm talking about. Recently, I played a futsal game against a really tough team. It was a close game. The other team played their starters most of the game. Their coach complained to the referees about every little call, and the calls went their way. Their parents told their kids to knock our team around because we were smaller. The game got chippy with yellow cards all over the place. Unfortunately, the tied game was broken when the other team scored a nice pass to the far post for a backdoor tap-in. The kid who scored came up in my face to taunt me. It was a tough loss. I was angry. I thought to myself, maybe we should have played our starters more like they did. Why didn't our coach out the rest too? I mentally blamed my defenders for not covering a man to the back post. I thought to myself, maybe I should have been more aggressive and knocked some of their players around or down. But that's not who I am. I'm not playing sports to win a game or trophies at all costs. A few years ago, I wanted to try baseball. All my friends have already been playing for years. They taught me the rules and helped me, but I was just at best okay. Our team lost in the playoffs. None of my better teammates ever complained that I was on the team. What I remember about baseball is during my first time at bat, I hit a double. My friend Will was more excited than I was and sprinted down the first base line with me the whole way. Will bragged that season about the double more than any home run he's ever hit. Winning wasn't all that important to Will. Being a good sport, teammate, and friend was. These stories provide examples of how the lesson of the golden calf may present itself in our lives. Do you want to be a dirty player, a bad teammate, and a bad sport to win a trophy during a tough game because that's what the other team is doing? Or do you want to be a clean but worthy adversary, practice hard, have fun, and support your teammates? My Torah portion tells us that we should not just do what everyone else is doing, but keep true to our faith and what we believe and know it's right. As playing sports is my favorite hobby, it is a pleasure to support the Cream City Charity as my mitzvah project. This organization collects new and gently used sports equipment for the underprivileged children and youth groups in the Milwaukee area. Its motto is every kid, every sport. I know that especially sports equipment can be very expensive. I feel that it is important to do what we can to allow other kids to experience the joy of sports as I have been fortunate to do. I feel very grateful to celebrate my becoming a bar mitzvah with you all. This day would not have been possible without my wonderful teachers I have had, and I want to express my deepest thanks to Rabbi Noah, Rabbi Pulaski, Cantor Perper, and Laura Green for their help and guidance in preparing me for this day. And I also want to thank all my teachers, coaches, and friends too. Finally, I want to thank my dad and my brother and my mom for supporting me to getting to my big day. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Now, I know that Everett has some words that he wants to say to you on this beautiful day, and then Dan and Angela, if you'd like to come up too, as you're going to say some words to Ethan as well. Good job.
Ethan, congratulations on making it to your big day. As many of you may recall, my bar mitzvah was during the pandemic and was virtual. So it means a lot to me and my brother, mom and dad included, to see so many of you in person as we join to celebrate Ethan today. As your older brother, Ethan, I've tried to always provide you with good advice, set an example, and pave the road forward for you. For those of you who know Ethan, you should not be surprised that he has consistently ignored my advice, done the opposite of whatever I have done, and veered off any path anyone has set for him. Some would call him headstrong, but I say Ethan's gonna be Ethan. Since we were kids, Ethan has been hyper-competitive with me. Somehow, he would transform anything I was doing into a two-man challenge. If I casually ate a slice of pizza for dinner, Ethan would scarf down 2 immediately and declare himself the champion of this newly created competitive eating contest. If our mom and dad parked the car outside, he would fling himself out of the door and sprint to the front door and proclaim himself the winner of the race that only he knew was being run. I'm a pretty laid-back kind of guy, and so Ethan's behavior was always odd. But Ethan, I like you. I like that you try and to compete with me. At least you have a goal. It's unrealistic and unattainable, but at least you've set a goal for yourself. But today's your big day, so I'm gonna throw you a bone, Ethan. If you've beat me at a few things today, first, there are far more people attending your bar mitzvah in person than mine. Second, you've traveled much further, about a mile for your bar mitzvah than I did for mine. And third, well, that's all about I can come up with for you beating me at anything. Ethan, I'll probably throw up in my mouth a little bit here, but I'm proud of you. You are such a busy kid. Every night of the week, you have multiple games or practices, running from one thing to the next. Your weekends are a circus of games, or worse yet, out-of-town tournaments. Somehow, you also manage to have quite an active social calendar. And you actually squeeze in some studying to get decent grades. Yes, everyone, it's a shocker. He's actually pretty smart. Rabbi, close your ears. Studying Hebrew was not Ethan's favorite pastime. But as busy as you are, you somehow managed to do a great job today. Not as good as mine, of course. I will say this. The one thing you'll always be a winner at, Ethan, is being the best younger brother a guy could have.
Well, since Everett's bar mitzvah, I now need these to do a speech, so that's new and exciting. Our family would like to thank Laura Green, Rabbi Noah, Rabbi Taylor, Cantor Perper, Andrea, and the rest of the Temple Shalom crew for working with Ethan and us to get to this special day. We'd also like to thank all of you for joining us today, whether in person or virtually. Ethan, we know what a busy schedule you have. We know because we drive you all over the place. And that makes us especially proud of you getting to your big accomplishment today. Like most parents, when we had our first child, Ethan's older brother Everett, we were unsure of what to expect. So we prepared. We read books, got advice from friends, and purchased, and cursing all the while, assembled all the gear. Nevertheless, we worried every step of the way. Fortunately, Everett slept well through the night. He rarely cried, even if one of his parents, who will remain nameless, was, let's just say, willing to delay diaper changes until someone or anyone more experienced or willing was around. Everett wasn't overly rambunctious, was disinterested around mealtime, and generally speaking, wasn't very fussy. He was a very easy baby. So Angela and I had few reservations about having a second child. On March 2nd, 2010, Ethan Morgan Lee, named after my great aunt and uncle, Eleanor and Maurice Bear, Aunt Elle and Uncle Mo, was born. Angela and I figured with a second boy, we already had all the clothes, had all the gear assembled, and we knew what to do and what to expect. This we thought would be a snap. Well, we were wrong. Unlike his older brother, Ethan was not a good sleeper. He was colicky, cranky, and had very sensitive skin. If his diaper was not immediately changed, you were going to hear about it, or worse. As soon as he could move, he was anything but cautious, an absolute terror, crawling everywhere, then sofa surfing, pulling stuff down, knocking stuff over, and bashing into stuff. Then came mealtime. Ethan wanted to eat everything and anything. I swear he was devouring giant slices of Ian's pizza at 4 or 5 months old, even though he had no teeth. We realized we had and still have our hands full. The two takeaways for us is, first, as a parent, never be so overconfident as to think you have any clue about what's coming. And second, how lucky Angela and I are to have two wonderful boys who, while are very different, also share one very important trait. But now I'll start with a few of Ethan's unique qualities. First, Ethan, you are clever. Well, this may be a euphemism for mischievous. Even at a young age, you somehow knew how to outsmart us to get what you want. When you were 2 or 3 years old, you wanted a treat. I told you no, that we were eating dinner soon and that only after a real meal could you have a cookie. You asked me, what counts as a real meal? I said, well, something like chicken with rice, a sandwich, or pasta. You thought about it for all of 2 seconds, went to the freezer, grabbed something, and shoved most of it into your mouth and then grabbed the cookie. I shouted, what are you doing? What did you grab from the freezer? I just said no cookie until after you eat dinner. You held out the empty wrapper of what you were eating, which was mostly consumed already. You smirked and said, Dada, ice cream sandwich. Ethan 1, Dad 0. Second, Ethan, you are affable, funny, and charismatic. You seem to make friends wherever you go and whatever you do. Whether it's your sports teammates, schoolmates, or a new group of kids, you always seem to be in the center of a group socializing and playing. In preschool, you and Jet had your milestones posse of boys. But when you started kindergarten, Mom and I were a little bit worried how you would do not knowing anyone in your class at the new school. You came home your first day and said you had already made several new friends, including a new best friend, Willow. Mom and I thought it was great you acclimated to your new school, and perhaps you had tabled your rough and tumble ways and found a new group of friends, including a new best friend who was a girl. At the first school conference, you introduced us to your new pal, Will S., and then your new best friend, Will O. Well, in terms of becoming more genteel, let's just say a note was put in the file immediately, and you and Will O did not have another class together at Stormouth. Third, you are fearless, Ethan. Whatever sport you have played, soccer, football, basketball, wrestling, baseball, lacrosse, futsal, volleyball, it doesn't matter whether you knew any other kids playing, were the least or most skillful, the fastest or the slowest, or even knew the rules of the game. You were always willing to give it a go and play hard. I remember, even though your friends had all been playing baseball for years, you wanted to try it. I drove you to your first baseball practice right from a soccer practice. You didn't know the rules, and in the car you asked me if you could throw out a runner. I said, sure, at first base or if there's a force. You responded, no, can I throw the ball at him while he's running the bases and get him out like in kickball? Fortunately, I said no, and you hopped right into the outfield and had no idea how to field. Without using your glove, a ball came to you and you stopped it with your body like you were playing goalie in a futsal game. Then after getting on base, you forgot you weren't wearing baseball pants, you slid into home in your soccer shorts, bloodied your legs up, and never thought a thing of it. Just recently, after a long trek to Detroit, in the last minute of a scoreless soccer game playing in a large college stadium, you got called for a foul in the box, and you conceded a penalty kick. You didn't panic, you got on the line, waited for the ref to blow the whistle, the shot to be taken, and you saved the penalty to preserve a draw. Your mom and I just marvel at how willing you are to throw yourself around, put yourself into uncomfortable, pressure-packed situations, and how effortlessly and calmly you rise to the occasion. But as amazing as the above and a myriad of other qualities you possess are, what makes you so special is that you also have another trait that you share with your brother. You're both empathetic. On the surface, you appear to be something of a now 13-year-old frat boy. Perhaps there is something to a name. You have your great Aunt Elle's never too early for happy hour and a good early bird special dinner spirit, and your great Uncle Mo's height and love of sports. They'd be proud to have you named after them. But just keep your sports investing to fantasy football. Make sure your happy hours are celebrated with lemonade, and that you don't send back and you always pay for all your meals. But behind this veneer, there's something more to you. You, like your brother, care deeply about other people. When you were in preschool, you and your Milestones posse were all about the same age and fortunately moved rooms together lockstep. But as the rooms turned over, some of the older kids would move out and some of the younger kids would move in. A friend of mine's son, who was about 6 months younger than you, who was also at Milestones, and when he was about 3 or 4 years old, he moved up and into your room but left his friends behind. He was the new young kid in a different room with a group of older boys. Well, picking you up a few weeks later, I ran into my friend outside of your room. He pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Dan, thanks for telling Ethan to look out for my son. He really missed his friends at first and was having a really hard time transitioning to the new room. But he told me Ethan right away noticed that, came over and included him in his group right away, and now he loves it, so thanks." I responded, "I didn't realize your son had moved into the room yet, but that's great, he's acclimating well." Ethan, I never said anything to you about my friend's son. You just noticed another boy having a hard time and instinctively included him and helped him. So that brings me to my final part of my speech, and I'll ask you the same question I asked Everett 2 years ago. What will you do with this amazing group of the package of qualities you've been blessed with? Your bar mitzvah is sort of like a snapshot in time. It's when you transition from being a child to a young adult. But what does that really mean? Well, up to this point, your mom and I, your grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, countless coaches and teachers have focused on helping you to learn, grow, and acquire life skills, all so that you can become independent. In other words, the focus was to help you mature. But today is a transition. Today you start to shift your focus outwards. You must now start thinking about what you can do to help other people. That is what today is all about. And it goes beyond just helping your brother, your family, and what you're already doing as a good friend, classmate, and teammate. Now you must figure out how you can make Fox Point, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our country, and the planet a better place. And how you do that is something only you can answer. But my advice to you, Ethan, is be clever enough to come up with new ways to improve the world. Use your magnetic personality to get others to join you, and be fearless enough to overcome any obstacles to make it happen. Above all else, be empathetic, and take everyone's well-being into account along the way. Today, Ethan, you start on this journey, and you're blessed to have all the tools you need to complete it. Mom and I, and even Everett, love you and are very proud of you today. And not just today, but every day. I'll turn it over to Mom now.
Ethan, there are those who say that a child's spirit chooses their parents. Then I would like to thank you for the privilege of being your mom. You have so many talents. You are smart, you are creative, you are funny, you are athletic, and you're a natural leader. I can't recall a day that I haven't been proud of you. Continue to embrace this world, continue to learn and seek adventures. You are such an intelligent young man with so much potential. You have an opportunity to truly make this world a better place. I hope on your journey you'll discover the way to happiness is by following your dreams and finding that by making other people's lives better, you automatically enrich your own life. As we know, life is a journey. Along the way, we meet many people, see the ordinary and extraordinary, have occasion to be celebrated and disappointed. In challenging yourself, expect to trip and fall, but you will always have the love and support of your family and friends. I wish for you to embrace your opportunities, accept responsibility, and that you always have a sense of humor. Congratulations on becoming a bar mitzvah. I love you.
Now you can return to your seats as we are going to say the words that have been on the lips of parents for generations in moments such as these, moments in which we watch our children attain something extraordinary. And so Dan and Angela, I'd like to ask you to rise. And Everett, if you would stand with them. And Ethan, you too, you've had a hand in making you who you are. And grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, if you would rise as well. And family, all the family that is here, and friends who we call family, if you would rise as well, and community, as we are now going to recite the Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us life, who has sustained us, and who has brought us to this very special moment today. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Ethan, you should be very proud of what you've accomplished here today. And I know that your parents, Dan and Angela, are incredibly proud, as is your big brother, Everett. Not only of what you've done in the moment, but who you are and who you're becoming. It's an important and sacred moment to become a bar mitzvah, an adult among our people. And it's a reflection of who you are that you stand here today. And you stood here today with great poise and great dignity. And you are able to lead us so beautifully in the service. And listening to your mom and dad talk about how you navigate the world with an open heart to others. And with that characteristic poise and confidence, it's truly remarkable to see you here today. And you gave us a beautiful description of what takes place in your Torah portion. And I want to focus on an event that takes place just following what you read from in your Torah portion. See, Moses was incredibly saddened by the behavior of the Israelites when they built the golden calf. And perhaps in his sadness, he felt moved to call out to God and pleads, "Let me behold your presence." And God, understanding that Moses needed that connection, answered, "I will make all my goodness pass before you. And I will proclaim before you the name Adonai and the grace that I grant and the compassion that I show. But," he said, "you cannot see my face, for a person may not see me and live." And the Eternal said, "See, there's a place near me. Station yourself on the rock, and as my presence passed by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I've passed by. And then I will take my hand away, and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen." Now, the Hebrew word for my back is achorai. I know you love Hebrew so much, so we're going to get into the Hebrew grammar. In Hebrew, it connotes not so much something spatial as it does temporal. It's not so much a place one can look, but an understanding of a period of time. And so God says to Moses, you can see my afterwards. You can see what it's like just after God has been there, but you cannot see what it's like while God is there or God is coming there. And what this means is that a period of time can only be understood once we're able to view the entire context of events and happenings. In the same way, we're only able to comprehend God's ways and recognize how God works in the world in retrospect. Only then is it possible to fathom even a little of what God does. And this is the real meaning of "you'll see my back." God says, in effect, only at the end will you see and understand me, but my face cannot be seen. Not while the events themselves are happening, for in the midst of things you will not be able to see me. And so, Ethan, we don't always get to see God coming into our life. We don't always get to know that we are going to have a spiritual experience. But maybe that's what makes this moment so profoundly special. Becoming a bar mitzvah means that you stand before all of us, your community. And we all have the ability to celebrate your becoming an adult within our tradition. This is a moment where we may not get to see God's face, but we do understand that God is present. And though we cannot see God's face, we do have the privilege of looking into the eyes of our family and our friends and our community, and we can see the pride that shines from them. So Ethan, I want you to take a moment. You can stand if you'd like and look around. And take a look around at all these people who love you. Your friends are waving to you. You can see them in the back. So often, in moments such as these, we don't pause and reflect. We don't take it in and wonder at the goodness that surrounds us. When we see in the eyes of our community that kind of love, this is the way that we experience God in our world. It's a powerful reminder that we are never alone and that we are loved with an unending love. You may be seated. Your parents are thoughtful, kind, and genuinely fun people to be with. And they've had moments of joy such as this one before, their marriage, the birth of you and Everett, as you heard. They had the moment when Everett became bar mitzvah in your kitchen, which was an incredible accomplishment despite the challenges of that time. And life will be filled with moments such as these for you, where you may be touched by the presence of God, moments where when we look back, we see that God was with us, moments such as experiencing the connections between friends, like you've described and like your parents described, moments of personal triumph, moments when we first meet the person with whom we'll spend our lives, and God willing, your life will be filled with moments of joy, like watching children attain adulthood, just like your parents and grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles are experiencing right now. So soon we're going to conclude this service, and your celebration will continue. And we'll conclude the service with the Havdalah. It's a ritual that closes the holiness of Shabbat and brings us into the secular week to come. And the ritual exists because we believe that we must bring that holiness in the light of Shabbat, the sweet smell of learning and spirituality beyond the limits of this time. Our lives are like that too. And even though there may be some who cannot be physically present with you today as they've passed into life eternal, we know that they're spiritually smiling down upon you today with the light of their lives reflected through your own. So we experience the holy through the people around us. Our sacred moments would not be sacred without the presence of those we love. And you took the time in your speech to thank those who have helped bring you to this moment. And in so doing, I think you recognize that which is truly special in your life. So I have some hopes and wishes for you. I hope that you continue to grow. You're taller than me already, but continue to grow not only in height and stature, but inside as well. I hope that you will watch out for the moments in which the divine is present in your life. That you will fill your lifetimes with family and friends, and in so doing, I know that you'll look back on life filled with happiness, and you will know that God was always there accompanying you on your way. For God has brought you to this moment. May God ever keep you with good health, with happiness, and with joy. And let us say, Amen. And now Ethan and I have the privilege of saying words that are just for you to hear, and then the cantor and I will have the opportunity to bless you.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
May God bless you and keep you.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה.
May God's countenance shine upon you and through you.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
May God always smile upon you, Ethan, and bless you with God's choicest of blessings. The blessing of wholeness, the blessing of peace, the blessing of shalom. We are going to turn now to the concluding sections of our service, as we turn now to the Aleinu, which can be found on page 282 in your Siddur. It's a joy once again to call upon dear friends of the family, to call upon Chris and Stacy and Will and Bryce, meet the Mitz O'Toole family. If you'd like to come forward and open up our ark doors. We rise now together as we turn to these sacred words.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We are going to remain standing as we turn our thoughts to memory, to those who have passed into life eternal and those whose presence we still feel with us today. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are marking and commemorating the period of Shiva for Michael Medved, Mimi Habish, and Susan Rubin. And we are also commemorating the period of Shoshim, the 30-day mourning period, as we think of Henya Fetterman, Marion Newman, Natalie Saltiel, and Martin Yanoff. In particular, we are thinking of these dear members of your family who we are commemorating and thinking of today: George Hardy, Harriet Lee Fromstein, Eleanor Bear, Mo Bear, and Dorothy Bear. And we know that they are still smiling down upon you and your dear family with the same love and affection that they did in life. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who died due to war and or terrorism, all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all those who have died due to this terrible virus that has stricken our nation and our globe, as well as the virus of racism and xenophobia. And we think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. If you have names of loved ones that you would like to call out for whom you are marking their yahrzeit, or if you are in the period of mourning during these 30 days, we invite you to call those names out loud as we look in your direction. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words that are sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 294. 294. We recite these sacred words together. Yit gadal v'yit kadash me rabba, bi'alma divrach rute v'amlich malchute, b'chayecho nuvyomecho nuvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevorach leolam ulalme amaya. Yit barach v'ishtabach v'it ba'ar v'it romam v'it naseh. V'it hadar v'it alev v'it halal shmei de kudusha b'richu. La'ela minkol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. De'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. You may be seated. In our tradition, we always turn from sadness to joy. We are taught that those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. And so it's always a joy to turn the service over to members of our congregational leadership. It is a joy now to call upon Jess Hendrickson, who's a friend of your families, who has the honor of presenting some gifts to you, Ethan. So would you like to, you can come up to stand with him as well, and I'm going to get those gifts out for you. There you go, Jess.
Ethan, an incredible job today. As you are known to do on the soccer pitch, you saved the day. Really proud of you. It's my honor and my pleasure to present some gifts from the congregation. This first one is a PlayStation. No, I'm just joking. The first one is your bar mitzvah certificate. I ask that you hang that in a place that you find important to you. The next one is a tzedakah box to carry on your family's tradition of being helpful to those in need. This book right here, written by John Gerda, A Jewish of History, Milwaukee. Hope that one day, maybe in the next edition, you'll be in it. And of course, the Kiddush cup, to put the lemonade that your father spoke of earlier on. May your cup always overflow with happiness and peace. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, and Yesha Koach, and thank you for your leadership in our community. And Ethan, you can put those down, as we are now going to turn in our service to the Havdalah. And Havdalah is a time of separation. As the Shabbat comes to an end, we want some of that light and that goodness to enter into the week to come. And so we have symbols of bringing that light and that sweetness forward. So we invite your dear family to step forward as well so that they can stand around you as we are going to join together in our Havdalah prayers.
Lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la 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 lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la 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 lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Borei peri hagafen.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. May this taste of this wine be a reminder of the sweetness of this moment for me and my family.
Lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la 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 lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of varied spices. May the spices remind us the sweetness of study, prayer, and charity can remain with us every moment of our lives.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh borei meorei ha'esh.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of lights of fire. Fire is a symbol of wisdom's power and light. On this special day, I sanctify these flames in dedication of becoming a bar mitzvah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ha'amavdil ben kodesh lechol ha'amavdil ben kodesh lechol.
Havdalah offers a distinction between the Shabbat, the day of rest, and remaining days of the week. It encourages us to realize the separation in all areas of our lives, the holy from the secular, the new from the old, and the childhood from the adulthood. We look forward to a week and a life of peace, of growth, and inspiration.
Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, chatoteinu yimchol. Zareinu v'chaspenu yarbe kachol, v'chakochavim balayla. Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Bimheira v'yamenu yavo eleinu im Mashiach ben David, im Mashiach ben David. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi.
Shavua Tov, everyone. One of the things that we say to each other when someone has done something truly wonderful is Yesher Koach, but also Siman Tov and Mazel Tov. And so we turn to our concluding hymn for this this new week, as we rise together and join in singing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov.
Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov, Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov. Ye'elanu, 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 Ol Lechol Yisrael. Ye'elanu, Ye'elanu, Ol Lechol Yisrael. Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov, Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov, Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov Mazel tov v'simen tov yelanu.
Mazel tov, everyone. So young people, I know that there's going to be a bus that is going to take you to your next destination, which is Sports Club downtown. Those of you who are driving there, please drive safely. Please enjoy the celebrations to come. Shavua Tov, everyone, and Mazel Tov. You're awesome. Good job, guys.
Thank you so much.
You're awesome. Good job. Way to go. Awesome speech. Way to go. That's great.
Here, you want to grab that
Good for
sucker,
you.
brother? Thank you.